Precious metals expert Joshua Rotbart from Jrotbart & Co. is back with us today on Talking Wealth to talk about platinum and palladium performance in 2022. Joshua Rotbart, welcome back to Talking Wealth. How are you today?
I'm very good, Janine. How are you been? Good?
Oh, good, thank you. Yeah, and just really excited to chat with you again. You're a very hard man to get a hold of. I know you're really busy and things over there can make it a little bit challenging at times. I know you're having training some staff as well and your business is growing. So thank you for joining us today.
Always happy to be hosted by you, of course.
And you're well and your family's well?
Yeah, everything is well. We're partial capacity in the office due to COVID restrictions, but generally, after 2 weeks of Zoom classes, we're still all alive. So that's good, I guess.
That's great. We often chat about gold and silver, which is always exciting. So this is a chance to chat about some other precious metals on the list to assist our viewers. Did you want to perhaps briefly explain how you view platinum and palladium in terms of their importance in the world?
Yeah, so these are interesting metals, and especially the last few years, they've been quite volatile. And investors, most of them are kind of undermining because they're not, it's not the mainstream in the world of precious metals. Usually when we say precious metals, I mean gold and silver, but definitely they're worth looking at, and especially this year. And I'll start with palladium. Palladium is an interesting case because palladium is being used for catalytic converters for vehicles, for just regular cars that you drive. And what happened is that, especially since China became a bit more environmental friendly and a bit more climate change conscious and pollution conscious, they start putting more restrictions on their car on the pollution that the car manufacturing. So the demand for palladium was increasing the last few years, and we've seen about a decade-old lag between supply and demand, which kind of helped the price of palladium and go up quite intensely. I think we went into from $800 a couple of years ago or 3 years ago. We're now 3 times more in terms of the price of 1 ounce of palladium, which is a lot. Now, the thing with palladium is that the manufacturing is quite, unlike gold, is quite concentrated. And 35% of the world palladium is mined in Russia.
Wow.
So there's no wonder that since we had this crisis in the Ukraine, just the last year and a half, the price of palladium has risen in more than 20%. Because when the UK and the US are speaking in sanctions on Russia, if they invade the Ukraine, obviously, apart from oil and other products, even wheat, by the way, but palladium is something people are looking at and saying this metal is going to be in short supply soon, because if there are going to be sanctions, the Russians will not be able to sell their palladium. So if you're looking on this, for example, on the crisis in the Ukraine, but also if you look on the supply disruption in the mines during the last couple of years, we're still lagging behind in terms of meeting the demand for palladium. The only thing I would say that kind of ease the demand is that we're not manufacturing as many cars as we should have, right?
Right.
And that's, I think we mentioned in last year, all the disruption in the supply chain, and especially in the electronic chip industry. So there's a shortage in electronic chip supply from China, which creates a shortage in manufacturing of cars, which somewhat diminishing the demand for palladium. But if you look at the big picture, palladium has been doing very well. 25% increase this year. About that in 2020. 2021 was not good because of the vehicle manufacturing element and the disruption in supply. But definitely it's picking up again.
And so is there an alternative to it? So if, for example, supply does become extremely constrained, is there a way of manufacturing what we need without it?
Not really. And again, palladium is a metal that really the demand comes from the automobile industry. So if we see, like we see, we talked about earlier, we talked about how demand for jewelry, for example, is rising. So if there's a sense of economy kind of bouncing back, then the demand for palladium will bounce back again. And then I think we'll see even more price appreciation. So I would say, to summarize on palladium, if you see demand or consumer demand coming up and the disruption in supply chain on the one hand, and you see continuation and tension between Russia and the West, I think there's no limit to how high can palladium go this year.
Right.
Don't forget, by the way, one last thing is that it's not a big market at the end of the day. It's not like unlike gold, we're not talking at the same volumes. So of course, that's why the price is quite volatile.
So is it important to have both of those metals alongside your investment in gold, or is it just one of those is better than the other?
Let's put it in the last few years, palladium did way better than platinum. But then in 21, it crushed more than platinum, which always, we always tell the client. And as you know, nothing can go up forever. And if it goes up a lot, it will bounce back a lot. We saw it in Bitcoin and other assets. So same with palladium. So platinum, I would say, I would hold both, not in large quantities. We're talking about 10 to 20% of the precious metal portfolio. Right? So what we tell clients is, say, if you build a precious metal portfolio, maybe the gold should be 50% of the portfolio, silver 30 or 40, and then the rest, which is 10 to 20%, divided between platinum and palladium, because they don't behave the same. They have similar trends, but the volatility is different. Again, if you're looking at 2021, palladium went down 20%. Palladium went down 20%, platinum went down less than 10%. So they can kind of balance each other.
And what opportunities do people have to hold it? I mean, is the process the same as what it is for gold and silver when someone's wanting to buy it?
Yeah, so today all the big mints are minting platinum and palladium coins. So if you look at the kangaroos with the Perth Mint, they have platinum and palladium coins the same. The Royal Canadian Mint is making platinum maples and palladium maples. Same for the American Mint, the US Mint, and the Austrian Mint, and so on. So there are ways. However, the cost of, I would say, production are higher.
Yes.
So the premium one can expect to pay on those coins or bars is a bit higher. So I would say for retail clients, maybe hold a few coins, but if you're looking at a bigger investment, a bigger, I would say, a cake, maybe consider buying bars. The bars, the good delivery bars, platinum and palladium, are reasonably priced. They're not pretty, interesting design or anything, but it makes, it takes the things, it's like you get the exposure to the price, which is what you need. So the opportunities are there. Just expect a bit of higher premium compared to gold and silver products.
So you're saying the outlook, based on what you're talking about with the conflict going on over in Russia, Ukraine, then in reality, palladium should continue to rise, is what your expectation is. So
yeah,
you're
definitely.
talking about a 25% rise has already occurred. And what do you expect over the next, is it like 1, 2, 3 years out that people should be thinking, or is it much shorter term than that?
No, I think it's shorter term than that. Because, again, I think what we'll see, and again, the problem is, we don't have the crystal ball. We don't know. Maybe by the time you'll air this, there'll be a full-on war in Ukraine, or maybe there'll be nothing. There'll be a new Cold War or detente or whatever you name it, and things will come down. So it can go both ways. Let's put it this way. Definitely, if we see an ease of the tension between Russia and the West, the price will drop. So I wouldn't necessarily, again, if you're thinking of a very, very short term, meaning days or weeks, you can get exposure to palladium by buying future contracts or buying derivatives or buying paper products.
So it really could be higher risk for somebody who's more a medium to long-term investor who doesn't really have a feel for, going in and out of things. It's more like a trader who's really got some experience, someone who can look at the charts and sort of make up their own mind about, now is a good time for me based on what's happening on the chart, and I'm comfortable with that, and I've set a stop loss underneath it just to get out if it goes the other way and not risk too much. So that's what you're talking about. So it's just because they've made 25% in the last year doesn't mean it's going to repeat it again. It's essentially what you're saying.
Exactly. So you nailed it. So if you're a medium to long-term investor, and both, especially on Palladium, I would hold. I would definitely not go in now after such a big increase in such a short term. I would wait to see, because again, as you say, yes, you may be able to do profit within a week, but if you're not that type of person, that's not what you do. It just doesn't worth the risk.
Yeah.
And it's better to hold on for a couple of months, see where we're heading. It will be interesting to see what the automobile industry is signaling, because if we see that they're starting to resume production to the scale that they were interested in, this is definitely good for Palladium. So this is something that I would look at in a couple of months. But in terms of what Palladium has been doing the last few weeks, is definitely direct influence of direct results of the conflict in the Ukraine. And a temporary conflict cannot be a strategy for someone to invest for a few years, right?
Yeah. So essentially what they should have done is been listening to what was going on over a year ago, and then that would have been the time. It's all good in hindsight. But what about platinum? Yeah. I mean, is that a different story then in terms of the strategy that someone would use with that metal?
Yeah, the price of platinum went down in the last few years. So we look at it as an underpriced to some extent.
Okay.
And the reason it went down is because platinum is used for jewelry and for manufacturing of diesel engines. And diesel are kind of out of flavor now, so less people buy diesel engines, and jewelry demand was down. So now actually we feel more comfortable about platinum because we see the jewelry industry bouncing back, which will bring back demand for platinum. It's an asset that is underpriced in our opinion. So we feel more comfortable about buying platinum now for the medium to long term rather than what we say about palladium.
I just got a question for you, because with the car industry, it's really easy to see the numbers to know whether it's bouncing back or not. But when someone's going to make a decision about platinum, if it's going to be much more reliant on the jewelry industry going forward, how does someone tell that that's happening? Is it just when, is it when high inflation times occur that it could do better? Is it up post a crisis? We've seen people go into more jewelry, I know, but how do people really gauge that?
We need to look at first of all, there is data. I mean, there is data available on manufacturing of platinum jewelry and demand, but you can look at a few parameters. You look at the unemployment. When unemployment goes down, people buy more jewelry.
Okay.
They have more money, they can buy more jewelry. So you can look at the unemployment, you can look at the inflation, because platinum does give you reasonable protection against inflation. So if you look at higher inflation, but on the other hand, less, unemployment is going down, available income is rising, you can anticipate an increase in the demand for jewelry. You can anticipate jewelry companies and retail stores will do better, so the demand will bounce back.
Now, you talked about dividing up the portfolio of precious metals before. So obviously that's just focusing on precious metals, not including all the other investments that somebody could have. So in that, if platinum's not really going to play a big role, and if palladium's not really going to play a big role in the portfolio, why bother having them in the portfolio? Why not? I mean, is it mainly if a client comes to you? I'm assuming that you have people come to you and say, look, tell me about this, I'm interested, what's the opportunity there? Or is it, and then if they ask for it, that's how you address it? Or is it that you offer a suite of, okay, this is what we suggest people do to break up their precious metals portfolio? Do you say, okay, if you're a long-term investor, just stick with gold and silver and leave it at that? I mean, how does it work?
Usually, so to be honest, the demand for platinum and palladium, usually it will be initiated from the client. But it's really a matter of the investment goal. And I can tell you personally, I'm very risk averse.
Okay.
So I don't have myself any platinum or palladium. I think the people who buy platinum or palladium are the ones that they like the precious metal sector. They're familiar with it. They do want to increase the risk and the potential reward on their portfolio. Right? So they are looking at their precious metal portfolio and say, yeah, I like gold, I like silver. The volatility is too low. They appreciate, so gold appreciates on average 10% a year. Palladium can appreciate an average of 15 or 20% a year. It can depreciate also in the same rate, but at least it increases the potential profit in their precious metal portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more, I would say, an investment kind of a characteristic of the person, of the investors, and what the end game is. Personally, I like to, on the precious metal side, again, that's a personal preference. I like to buy and hold. So I buy gold, I buy silver, I just sit on it, and I don't care about the prices, don't care what they're doing. This is something that if things gonna go well, they'll go to my kids, and my kids will deal with it, right? For those who are looking for, I would say, kind of more 5 years, a bit of higher risk within the precious metal sector, then they'll come to us and say, I'm looking at palladium and platinum.
Mm. So, generally your motto is, just buy and hold and don't play with it. Just allow the market to do what it's going to do, and over the long term, gold will continue to rise. So, I think that's good advice. Do you have anything else that you would like to discuss in relation to that, just briefly before we finish up?
Just one thing, and it goes back to what you said. If you're looking at, and again, that's different. If you're looking at gold appreciates on average 10% a year, which for me, for a low risk asset, it's great. But again, if you say 10% a year, I expect a bit more from my precious metal portfolio. Then that's the point of adding some palladium, platinum. I wouldn't do it though in a high percentage of the precious metal portfolio, because it can really affect the profitability of the entire basket.
Mm. And do you think that your children will be interested in gold, or do you think that you will steer them into something else?
I don't think the other thing. It's I always tell people, gold has been around for so many years. It's such a part of who we are. I think as long as human beings are there, gold will remain precious. That's one thing for sure. So, I can tell you even now, my 6-year-old kid went with me to deliver a gold to, when he was on a summer holiday, to deliver a few gold bars, a few 100-gram ingots to a client. I can tell you, he's 6, but he wouldn't let go. He kept asking my client, can I keep one? I'd like to keep one. There's something about the shininess that speaks to anyone from 60 to 90. They look at it, it's shiny, it's solid, they know what it means, and it captures our attention immediately. Yeah,
look, I can just see your children at Christmas time opening up their new blocks, and they're all gold blocks, piling them up there. Just have the letters of the alphabet on gold blocks. I love that. There's an idea if you get bored and get in lockdown.
Exactly.
Just before we go, would you please tell us, or the viewers, where they can find out more about you?
We're on Instagram, YouTube, and our website, just Jrotbart.com, and you can find us easily. There's a lot of resources, a lot of articles going 5-6 years back, so you can look back, find the resources, interesting reads about gold and other metals. Joshua
Rotbart, thanks again for being on Talking Wealth. It's been great to have you. Take care. Bye for now.
Take care, Janine. Thank you.
For more information on our guest in today's episode, visit the link on screen right now.